Why is it that Brad Pitt, despite insisting he doesn't want to give up, and is not the kind of father who easily turns his back on his children, was still absent from Knox and Vivienne's birthday, a milestone moment in their coming of age? Were his quiet efforts simply not enough? Or have the legal and emotional barriers grown too large, widening the gap beyond repair? The story took an even more tragic turn when, right after that birthday, Brad faced an irreplaceable loss, the death of his mother, Jane Etta Pitt. In his most painful moment, he leaned on his girlfriend, Inés de Ramón, as a source of comfort, prompting the question, in this time of crisis, who truly matters most to Brad, his estranged family, or the woman currently by his side? Brad Pitt, once synonymous with the glamour of Hollywood, with iconic roles and an Academy Award to his name, now appears in headlines not for his craft, but for the voids in his personal life. Shocking reports recently revealed that the actor had tried to reconcile with his twins, Knox and Vivienne, before their 17th birthday, but that his efforts had seemingly reached a dead end. What fascinated the public even more was the detail that Knox continues to carry the surname Jolie-Pitt, while Vivienne quietly removed Pitt from her playbill credits, a move said to have left Brad utterly devastated. This is more than the private drama of a celebrity family. It is a mirror reflecting the tensions of fatherhood, a contentious divorce, and the harshness of public scrutiny toward a man once revered on the silver screen. To understand, we must revisit the long, drawn-out divorce battle with Angelina Jolie, the legal disputes over custody, and the narrative that cast Brad in the role of the alienated father. One reason the public remains fixated is because Brad Pitt himself has become symbolic. Once a celebrated star, he now represents the heavy price of having a private life dissected and exposed before the world. The essence of this story goes far beyond a father not invited to his children's birthday. It opens a larger conversation about justice within families, the psychological toll on children caught in divorce, and even society's responsibility when its constant gaze and commentary may deepen those wounds. Brad Pitt may have failed in repeated attempts to reconnect, but Knox's decision to keep the name Jolie-Pitt is a sign, however small, that the bond has not been entirely severed. Here lies the true conflict. On one side, the image of Brad Pitt as resilient, refusing to let go of his children. On the other, the unforgiving reality where even the smallest gestures from his children, erasing a surname or a birthday without his presence, cut into him like blades. A man accustomed to the cold detachment of a camera lens is finding himself unprepared for the coldness within his own home. The narrative stretches further with layers worth examining. Is Brad's relationship with Inés de Ramón a genuine attempt at healing, or simply a refuge in the storm? Did his mother's passing instill in him an even deeper resolve to mend ties with his children, having been reminded of the fragility and value of family? And above all, will Knox and Vivienne, at 17, on the cusp of adulthood, be ready to open the door for their father? Or will they choose to lock away the past, leaving Brad alone with memories and regret? This is not merely a story about Brad Pitt. It is a reflection of countless families torn apart, where love, law, and the autonomy of children collide to create distances that are not easily bridged. And while the public may see only a movie star failing as a father, perhaps Brad Pitt is showing us something else entirely. The portrait of a man clinging to even the smallest hope that the bond between father and child has never truly been lost. The fallout from the prolonged legal battles has carved wounds so deep that they seem to have reshaped the very fabric of Brad Pitt's family life. What the courts could divide in terms of money and property, they could never repair when it comes to love, trust, and the invisible threads that bind a father to his children. On paper, custody and visitation schedules might look like solutions, but in reality, they have left Pitt standing on the outside, peering into lives that once felt inseparably connected to his own. Insiders emphasize again and again that he doesn't want to give up, and that he is not that kind of father. Yet the undeniable truth is this: his children's quiet actions in the public eye speak volumes. Shiloh's decision in 2024 to drop the surname Pitt and legally go by She Jolie was more than just a personal preference. It was a symbolic rupture, a declaration that the divide within this family has taken root in identity itself. For a father, few things could sting more than to see his very name, his legacy, abandoned by the child he once carried in his arms. Hovering over all of this is Angelina Jolie, whose choices and silences remain central to the family's fragile balance. For years, Jolie deliberately avoided exposing the most private details of her marriage and divorce, an act that some viewed as restraint and others as a strategic decision. But now, reports swirl that she may be ready to lift the veil, possibly through a memoir that would lay bare their years together, the highs, the lows, and the painful collapse that followed. Such a book would not be just another celebrity tell-all. For Pitt, it could become a weapon that forever alters how his children and the world see him. A father fighting desperately to rebuild relationships could find himself further alienated if his image is reshaped not by his own words, but by the recollections of a former partner who has carried the weight of a decade-long conflict. This looming possibility creates a paralyzing dilemma for Brad. If he presses too hard in trying to reconnect, he risks provoking Jolie into telling her story, a story that could reignite old wounds and harden his children's resolve to keep their distance. If he chooses restraint, waiting quietly, hoping his children will one day reach for him on their own terms, he must endure the ache of watching them slip further away with each passing year. For a man who has already endured the loss of his mother, the erosion of his marriage, and the heartbreak of rejection from his children, it feels as though there is no path forward that does not lead through more pain. What makes this saga resonate far beyond Hollywood is how universal its themes truly are. Strip away the luxury, the headlines, and the fame, and what remains is a story countless divorced parents know all too well: the sense of being erased from their children's lives. For many, it comes not through paparazzi photos or magazine stories, but through quieter acts: a missing signature on a school form, an unanswered text message, a refusal to spend the weekend together. For Pitt, it arrives in gestures the world can see: names struck from credits, birthdays celebrated without him, interviews where his children remain silent about their father's place in their lives. These small but devastating choices cut deeper than any court ruling. They become the lived proof of distance, of absence, of estrangement. And yet, hope persists. Even as Shiloh distances herself, Knox continues to keep the surname Jolie-Pitt. To an outsider, it may seem like a trivial detail, but to a father fighting for relevance in his children's lives, it is a fragile thread of connection, a sign that perhaps not all bridges have burned. For Pitt, such tiny signals may be the only things that keep him going, the only reasons he continues to believe that one day reconciliation could be possible. The potential release of Angelina's memoir threatens to turn a private family battle into a public spectacle of judgment. For Brad, the damage would not only be reputational, but deeply personal. If Jolie were to lay bare her perspective on their marriage, their divorce, and the bitter disputes over the French vineyard, it could solidify his children's loyalties on one side, leaving him permanently in the role of the estranged parent. After nearly a decade of fighting in courtrooms, such a public reckoning could represent the final battlefield, the court of public opinion, where the jury is not bound by law, but swayed by narrative. Wait ni ang huwag Brad Pitt nyo dinao. Mutmat, ang van labyoto ang tuan kao, ngoy din na arin ang kokon matading hingmot king Indian an. Nyong matkak, ang lamot ngoy chidang batlon voy nyong ton tuang madang tiang kong de checho. Ang bigyang checho a helwa chong bat kathi. Dautran chukok kon vachap nyari. Ar ode chung ra exahon. Hok im lang chudoy vachap nyari. Ar ochingkian toy gian lam diumachung.com de lam duok. Kinsua gatronen bat kathi.